It's the weekend, and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to April, spring, and this show, which is sponsored by the letter F. Mark, do you know what the letter F stands for? I think you do. It's time to talk about fiduciary. Da 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 da. We didn't do it last weekend because we just didn't have enough time to get all of the information out for you. But very exciting news from the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards. A huge change. What is that huge change? Starting October 1st of 2019, CFP professionals, anyone who's got that little CFP after their name, that's like me. I have that. We now all must act in the best interest of our clients at all times. Now, here's the difference. It used to be, the rule was that you would be subject to the fiduciary standard if you were conducting financial planning for a client. But now, any kind of financial investment, any kind of anything with a dollar sign kind of advice, if you're a CFP, as of October 1st, 2019, so a year plus away, you now have to act in the best interest of your client. You are subject to the fiduciary standard. Now, remember, this is important because the vast majority of brokers or insurance reps, all the people who are selling some kind of securities product, even if it's an insurance policy that has a securities component, most of those people are held to a lower standard. It's called suitability. That means that whatever this salesperson recommends to you, and I put recommend in quotes, I'm doing air quotes, that has to clear a pretty low bar. It's essentially what is deemed suitable for you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in your best interest. So effectively, what that means for you is that you could pay more money for, say, a 529 plan that has, some fees or commissions, but it's not the best plan for you. And I think that this is really important. It also may mean that you're buying a mutual fund that has a big charge when a cheaper one exists. Maybe it means that you're buying some weirdo, complicated insurance product, which has all these bells and whistles that you don't really need, when honestly the best thing for you would be a cheap term policy. Well, under this new rule that applies to CFP professionals, they would always have to put you first, but all these other dudes and dudettes, they are subject to just a suitability standard. And again, it's just a very low standard. So in my mind, this is a wonderful opportunity to remind you that this F word, fiduciary, is really important. And there are a lot of professionals who adhere to a fiduciary standard in addition to CFPs. We know that CPAs do, and the CPA that holds this designation, which I think is super cool, called the Personal Financial Specialist, or PFS. For the members of the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, that's NAPFA. Remember, those are fee-only people. They are precluded from actually accepting commissions at all. And also the smarty pants analysts out there, chartered financial analysts, they also will put your interest first. Now, if you don't want to actually take control of this, then you are essentially left with advice that may or may not be conflicted and may or may not be in your best interest. For everyone else, because you're listening to this show, I think you care, you want to just ask the person you're working with, are you held to the fiduciary standard? Get that pledge in writing and make sure that it applies all the time to all accounts. Hey, Mark, let's put in the show notes for today, let's put the link to the spring fiduciary update, so people know what we're talking about, and the 10 questions to ask. All right, now let's go. I'm Gretchen. I am so sorry. I have essentially eaten into your time. I promise I'll make good. So, hi, Gretchen. Where's Gretchen calling from? Did you tell me, Mark? Charlotte. Gretchen from Charlotte. How are you? Is everyone lamenting the fact that no Charlotte-based basketball team won anything for you? Are you sad about that?
I think everybody around here is a little sad about that.
Oh, I'm sorry to say that. Someone else has got to win.
I know.
And two extraordinarily fun teams did win. So that's good for basketball. All right, Gretchen, what's going on? How can I help you out?
So my husband and I have been toying with the idea of when to sell our house, basically. So we bought in 2015. We bought it for $245, and we owe about $209 right now. And we've been hearing a lot that prices are going to go down at some point. So we're just trying to. I know this is not what you're supposed to do, but we're trying to time the market, basically.
I love that.
So that we can sell and get the most for, the most money for it.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to move around a lot, and so we're here in Charlotte for the next 3 to 5 years. And so after that, we don't know where we're going to go. So we don't want to be stuck with something that's underwater, basically.
I got you. What do you think it's worth right now, Gretchen?
So we asked our realtor to come over, and she said just, ballpark number between $275 and $285. So 2 other homes sold in our community late last year for $285 and $286.
Okay. So let's say that it's $280. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you got $70,000 of equity or so. And
right.
What are you going to do when you sell this place? Are you going to rent?
Yeah, we would have to rent. We have to live somewhere, so we would have to rent, and we would probably put whatever we make off the house into savings until we find the next place that we want to buy, and have money available for that.
How about any debt outstanding?
So I have student loans that I'm paying off that I would pay off by the time that we would sell within like 2 years.
Mm-hmm. What's the interest rate on those loans, Gretchen?
My interest rate is 5%, so it's a little bit high.
Mm-hmm. How much is outstanding? What remains?
60 right now.
Interesting how those numbers jibe.
Yeah. So, I'm making huge payments.
Mm-hmm.
We make decent money. We don't have any credit card debt.
Okay.
And we do have 2 car loans though.
All right, Gretchen, hang on. I want to go to a break. I want to come back to you. I think I want to sort of figure out whether or not you're really going to end up buying or not. I don't think you are. Not for a little bit. In which case, I'm thinking about something else with your $70,000 cash out that can be used, pretty sooner rather than later. So that's interesting. So, okay, remember. So Gretchen's situation before we go to the break. She's got a townhouse. Looks like if they sell it, $70,000 of equity, but then they got to rent something. Let's find out how much she'd have to pay in rent. Take the $70,000 out. Should we pay down student loans? Maybe there's some car loans. What about how much money's going into retirement? We got a lot of questions to ask Gretchen. So when we return, let us spend the proceeds from a house sale. Not spend it like go out crazy and go on a trip, but let's make sure we deploy it effectively. You're listening to Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Go to JillOnMoney.com if you would like to check out some of the stuff that we read and produce. You can listen to our other shows that you might have missed and watch our TV segments. So check it out, JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
If you've missed any part of the show or want to check out a past show, go to JillOnMoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You're back with Jill on Money, and before we went to the break, we were talking to Miss Gretchen, a happy homeowner of a townhouse. And Gretchen, you got $70,000 that would be available in kind of like after you're done with the proceeds, and maybe you'll sell it for a little more, but maybe you end up with $65,000 or $70,000 after all your expenses. And you say you've got student loans, $60,000 at 5%, car loans. How much is outstanding, Gretchen?
So I just had to replace my car. My car, I have $25,000 on mine, and I think my husband has about $30,000 on his.
Okay. And are the interest rates low or high on those cars?
Very low. I
Okay.
mean, mine is less than 1%.
God
and
bless
my
you.
husband, yeah, I know. And my husband's is about 1.9%, I think.
Okay, sweet. Okay. And how much money's in savings right now?
So in savings, we have about 10 or 12,000 in cash, just in straight cash. We have about 60 in investments. And in 401, I think my husband has about 58, and I have about, 30 maybe.
How old are you guys?
I'm 39, and he is 35.
Okay. Kids? No kids?
No kids.
Okay.
We don't plan to have kids either.
Yeah, because we got to pay down all this debt.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Decision.
Okay. How much money? So it's funny. So the 60 grand you have in investments, where'd that come from?
That's my husband's, and I think it's stocks.
Okay.
Sure.
And
Not sure
did he inherit that? Does he like play on the side? What's his gig?
I want to say that he inherited that.
Okay. It sounds like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you guys split the responsibilities? Like, for example, there are many couples where you say, okay, I've got 60 grand in student loans, and I'm going to just kind of whittle that down. Or do you guys sort of do it together? How do you manage this?
We do it together. So we pool all our money into our accounts, and then we just pay everything off of that.
Got it. And how much, you said you make good money. How much do you earn?
We make about 200 combined.
Are you guys maxing out your retirement plan or not?
I am. I don't know if he is. So I get 10% from my job, and then I put an additional 3%. And I want to say he does like 5% maybe.
You're kind of a little light on the putting money into your retirement.
Yes, we are.
Is that because you're putting all the money into paying down your debt, which you personally are doing? But what about, so same for him, like we're putting all this money in towards the student loans. Has that kind of been the priority?
Yeah, that's been the priority.
How much are you going to have to pay in rent over the next 3 to 5 years?
So if we were to rent right now, rents in Charlotte, we could get something decent for $1,200 to $1,400, which is basically our mortgage payment. I mean, that's what we would pay.
So awesome. Okay, so here's the deal. I think sell it now. No need to wait. I mean, especially because there's not a huge differential. Okay. And I would take the proceeds. First thing I would do is I would beef up your savings. You really do need more like 3 to 6 months of your expenses that's in the bank. Okay? So once you get that done, I don't know how much that is. I mean, do you have an idea about how much you guys do spend? Let's forget about the student loans for 1 second. How much money it costs you to live?
I would say like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I was thinking 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So
somewhere in that range.
So let's say out of the 70, let's get your savings up to 30 grand. Okay? Really boring. And I know that your husband has this money in investments, right? I would be very careful about maybe looking at that and saying, do I really want to keep this in individual stocks? We've got a lot of other things that are priorities. Right. It's funny, you're asking me about timing the market on the housing stuff, and yet you're not asking, and maybe he doesn't care, but like one of the things I would say to him is that, well, what about those investments? I mean, that's a great way that you could basically have a down payment or pay off student loans or do whatever you want. But there's this big pile of money that's sitting there, and it may be because, Nana always loved her ExxonMobil. I'm making that up. I don't know that. But everybody has a story like that. And I think it's much more important for someone in your situation to say, look, we've got these assets. What's the best way to use these assets? And I would think that, if at the time you sell the house, maybe you look at some of the investments, you sell some of the investments. Maybe there's some that have big capital gains. That's why he's not selling them. But still, I don't know, big deal. So pay taxes on it. It's not that. It's not going to be that. He didn't inherit it with a cost basis of 0. My guess is that he inherited it at some time and they've made some money. That's great. Then my next on your hit parade is after you've replenished your cash and you have this money that's both from maybe the investments as well as the house. I would just get rid of your student loans in one fell swoop and forget about it. And now, wow, how great is that? Now all of a sudden you've got free cash flow. You both can put more money into retirement. You're not spring chickens anymore. I'm totally kidding.
Right.
You are spring chickens. But I would like it if both of you were putting away 10%. And you can't do 10% if you're trying to whack away at this student loan debt.
Right.
And so I think that, honestly, if I'm 39 years old, I actually really would prefer you to have 15%, but I want to give you a little flexibility. But, somewhere between 10 and 15%, you guys are making a ton of money. I also should point something else out. If I look at your tax bracket now for 2018, you are solidly in this 24% tax bracket. And I think that you're going to actually, you've got some room there, but I really think what's going to be helpful for you is to get some of that retirement planning stuff kicked up. I think that you won't, you say yourself, like, look, we're only going to be here for 3 to 5 years. In 3 to 5 years, the next place you go, you decide you want to buy something, you'll still have some cash on hand. You'll still have cash, you'll still have investments. And I think that if I'm in your situation, I really want to start to beef up my retirement assets. So maybe there's sort of like a three-pronged approach here. One is we get rid of our debt. Two is we beef up our savings and emergency and regular savings. And three is increase my retirement contribution because you're going to have a lot of free money here.
Yeah.
So I just really feel like you guys are going to be able to do both plain old. Like if we wanted to buy a house in 5 years, that would be fine. And again, as you say, you don't know where you're going to go. Maybe you're going to go to a market where the housing market is crazy and you don't want to actually buy. You want to keep renting. Or maybe you're just going to be happy renters no matter what you do. I don't know. But I really think this is important. And I think that you guys are in a great place to make a change. And I'm not doing this based on market timing, just for everyone listening, not for you, Gretchen. You know that. What I'm basing this on is where you are in your financial lives, because this to me is a great moment to kind of really turn things around. And if you do that, you're not going to be worrying about what the housing market's doing. You're going to feel so comfortable. All right? Good? Rock and roll. Call me back and tell me what goes on, okay? Keep me posted.
Thank you.
All right. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. This is so great. This is a good call. Mark wants them to start saving more. They do need to save more. But you know what? Once they're going to clear the decks on the debt, and that's going to help. What are you making that face for? Mark is already worried. The Italian grandmother in the house is really worried because he's thinking they don't have enough. They're 35, 40 years old. They're going to be okay, Mark. They make good money. That's the beautiful thing, that, you can actually make a big dent and really change your, the way you look at your landscape in your 30s. You can make that shift. I think it's going to be good. Such a downer. Ever since he started taking these CFP classes, he's been like an incredible downer. You used to be a much more optimistic guy. Now you realize how hard it is? No, you've never been optimistic. Well, you're optimistic about us. That's all I care about. Okay, so great call. Thank you so much, Gretchen. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to time the real estate market. Don't try to time the stock market or the bond market. Timing is hard and almost impossible. All right, you are listening to Jill on Money. When we return, more of your phone calls. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
All right, you're back with Jill on Money. Yeah. We just got off the phone with Gretchen, who is a 30-something married person with some student loan debt and some investments. And Mark made a comment during the break that I just want to share with you. In fact, she said that she was maxing out her retirement. And what we realized is that she's not maxing out her retirement. She's just putting into the match. She's maxing her match. That's what she's doing. Let's find out what Al is doing. He is on the line from Detroit. Hi, Al. Welcome to the show. What can I do for you?
Hi, Jill. I'm in a similar situation. I'm 35 and recently married, and we're kind of trying to figure out how to bring our money together to plan for retirement in, 30 years or so.
Okay. What you got?
So we have both of our 401ks combined, we have about $185,000.
Great.
I have a match of 6%, but then they add an extra 4 at the end of the year. So every year I've worked at my current job, I've gotten the 10% match.
What do you put in? What percentage?
I'm putting in 8%.
Okay.
And my wife, she has a 4% match, but she's putting in 7%.
Okay. Great. What about other assets?
We own a home. We owe about $100,000 on the home still. But the house is probably worth closer to, 220, 225.
Great. Fantastic. And you have a 30-year mortgage?
Yep.
Okay. And are you paying it down faster, or are you just making your payments and the house is appreciated? Why do you have so much equity in it?
My wife bought it when the market was low. So
nice.
She bought the house for probably 120.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, and our market has turned around pretty quickly.
Fantastic. How about anything else in savings? Like you have your 401ks. How about just like safe money?
We probably have, between the two of us, probably like $60,000 in cash.
Okay, great.
I don't think we have anything like set as like emergency funds.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we probably have. I would say maybe 10 of that is probably emergency fund, and then the rest is just cash on hand.
Cash on hand, like in investments, or is it invested, or is it in cash?
Some of it is in cash. I have a Betterment account that has about 16 grand.
Okay. All right. I gotcha. And so when you think about debt that's outstanding, any student loans?
Yeah, I have student loans, and it's about $45,000, and we're paying $700 a month.
Okay. What's the interest rate?
I think 6.25. I think I'm scheduled to pay that. Like if I just pay the $700 a month for the next, I think 7 years.
Okay. All right. That's okay, but at least it would be done. So in 7 years. Okay. So this is all good. I think that number one, how much money do you guys spend on a monthly basis? Forgetting about the student debt for 1 second. What are your other expenses?
Just the house and other expenses.
Mm-hmm.
I just checked, and it looks as if we're spending around, $5,000 a month.
Okay, great. Fine. So the first thing I would do, much to the chagrin of my friends at Betterment, is I would sell that out. I would be done with that and take the money and lop off, $16,000 of your student loans in one fell swoop. That's number one. Are your gains long-term or short-term in that account?
I'm sorry?
Do you have gains in that Betterment account, long-term or short-term gains?
Not the market has taken a turn for the worse, so actually the gains aren't that much.
Oh, good. Sell that out. Sell it out. 16 grand, that's gone. Use that 16 grand to immediately pay down your $45,000. So now you only have 30 grand outstanding. Isn't that great how we did that in one fell swoop?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is that, look, you probably need $40,000 in, an emergency reserve fund. You said you have about 60 grand in savings. So maybe what I would do is of that 60, I might take 20 of that and knock off 20 from the debt. So now you would only have 10 grand outstanding. And then essentially what you're doing is you're paying off this high interest note with money that's not earning that much. And you're being efficient about it. And now, instead of paying that loan off in 7 years, you will probably by the middle of next year pay that loan off. You'll be done. Once that loan is paid off, what I want you both to do is to increase, if you, I presume you're capturing the full effect of the match. So either you can increase your 401k contributions, or How much do you guys earn together?
About 160.
Okay. So if you want, you can either increase your 401k contribution or you can open up Roth IRAs for both of you. And if you love Betterment, then do it at Betterment. Just open 2 Roth IRAs and fund those. That's, again, once your student loan is paid off, because you're paying the $700 a month. You could be putting that money towards a Roth, both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And without the student loans that are outstanding, I think that you're going to be really in a great shape to crank on your total retirement contributions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we get rid of the student loans, you get going, and you really start to put your retirement plan into almost like a different gear. You know, like you say, all right, well, I have this money. I have $700 every month. I can take that money that was going towards my student loans and open up a Roth IRA for both me and my wife, and then just get the money working on an ongoing basis. I think that that would make so much sense. It's funny, we've gotten 2 calls in this hour sort of with the same theme, which is sometimes it is good to pay off these debts. Clear the decks. Clear the debt, clear the decks. Use your money from your investment account to help you out to do that. And move to a totally new way of looking at your financial life. So that is my best analysis for you, Al. Thanks so much for calling. You're listening to Jill on Money. If you, too, have some student debt and you want a little strategy for getting that cleared out, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Hey, during this break, go onto the website, JillOnMoney.com, and register to receive our weekly newsletter. It's so much fun, and it's free. We'll be right back.
The cure to your financial problems could be just a phone call away. 855-411-JILL is the number to dial. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. Have you signed up for our newsletter? Mark, my husband, someone thought we were married. To understand why that's so funny, you really have to know us both very well. Anyway, no, we are work spouses, but not real spouses. Does your girlfriend think I'm kind of like your work spouse? Yeah. Because we talk all the time, 7 days a week. It's ridiculous. But mostly about stuff for you guys, so that's important, right? Kevin wrote in and asked about TIPS, which is the Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, okay? And this is a really good question, and I don't feel like I've gone through TIPS and done a good explainer on TIPS. So first of all, most of this information that I am about to tell you is on the treasurydirect.gov website. So I know you may not go there, so I'm going to give you the information. But if you choose to do it, treasurydirect.gov. That'll give you all the information on TIPS and EE savings bonds and other Treasury securities. So here's the deal. TIPS are basically a way to make a bond investment which is adjusted based on inflation. In fact, according to the Consumer Price Index. So when the CPI, Consumer Price Index, or prices in general, when prices rise, the principal of TIPS will rise, and with a fall, the principal decreases. TIPS, like many government securities, pay interest every 6 months. But the thing is that when you first start and you buy a TIP, it's actually the rate, the fixed rate, is determined at the auction, which, depending on when you buy it, there's one in April for 5 years. I think in 10-year is in May. But anyway, let's see. Yes, 5-year TIPS April, 10-year TIPS May, 30-year TIPS June. Those are the ones that are coming up. Okay, so let's go through this now. See, I've already said that you can buy 3 different terms: 5-year, 10-year, 30-year. The tips are offered in multiples of $100 increments. Okay? And what's important here is that, again, you have this fixed part that you know, and then an adjustable part that's based on the CPI. Okay? And it's a little bit of a formula, but that's the general gist. Okay, so what else can I tell you about these things? When you buy a tip, and you buy it directly from the U.S., it's kind of the easiest way to do it. You can hold this until it matures. You can sell it before you mature. You can redeem them at Treasury Direct or sometimes a bank or a brokerage firm. So that's important as well. So why do you buy a tip? You buy a tip because you believe that the assumption of inflation right now, the current inflation rate, is lower than you believe the inflation rate will be going forward. So it's a bet on, how do I buy a bond that will adjust based on inflation, and do I think the current pricing or assumptions about inflation are too low? And I think that that's a very important piece of the puzzle, because if you believe that inflation is that inflation is going to rise, the prices are going to go up, then Kevin, the person who asked about this, Kevin, you'd buy a tip. You'd think, oh, this is a good deal. But if inflation kind of stays the same, it may not be such a good deal. So there's also some other things that you can think about. When you think about tips and you want to buy them, you may want to look at the tax consequences, because there actually are tax consequences here. You may want to look at whether or not you think it's worth it for you to have this inflation protection built into your own portfolio, or would you rather try to protect your portfolio against inflation in other ways? Some other ways could be that, a lot of people think, oh, gosh, I should buy gold to protect against inflation. I don't really think about that. But I do think that, a lot of people underestimate the fact that even in an inflationary time, sometimes stocks can actually be a pretty decent performers. So not just all bonds. But anyway, I just point this all out to you because, Kevin, they're somewhat more complicated than you would think. There's also, by the way, for those of you who are interested in safety and security, not just buying tips, you can also buy an I bond, which is it's like a double E bond, except that it has an actual inflation component as well. So those are the two different ways that you can do them. You can get lots of information at treasurydirect.gov, and you can find out just how much interest these things are paying. You can find out how to buy them. You can find out how to redeem them. And you can also find out whether this might be worth it for you. Okay? Thanks for writing. And I appreciate the opportunity to do a little tipperoonie. Kevin, thanks. All right. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. That is what Terry did. And Terry's message is that Terry, he, she, because we don't know, Terry, it. I love the whole pronoun problem. What are you supposed to say? What do the kids say now? There. Yeah, I don't know. You're younger than I am. Anyway, Terry writes, I have about $300,000 in my 401k and I just retire. retired. Everyone seems to have the best portfolio package. Any recommendations about what to look for? Yes, Terry, as a matter of fact. I mean, first of all, are you talking about an automatic investment platform like a Betterment, a Wealthfront, a Personal Capital? If that's what you're looking for, you know what? I'm totally partial to Betterment because guess what? They're the sponsor of my podcast. I'm just more familiar with them. If you're talking about maybe an actual financial advisor, what I would be looking for is understanding what is the philosophy of the investing. In other words, is the portfolio package essentially a bunch of index funds that are allocated based on your age, your risk tolerance, when you think you're going to need to access your money? I like that. And if you're thinking about just managing your money yourself, that's fine too. Again, I would try to stick to low-cost index funds and would really want to be able to have you limit your exposure to anything that churns a lot of the portfolio, not for tax purposes, but that you don't need to be looking for the next best stock. You need to be just kind of keeping things in check. Give us a holler back if you want more. I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to compare. But again, low-cost investing, that is the way to go. Here is another Terry, so I'm going to... Interesting. I'm trying to get a low-interest interstate loan to pay off high percentage interest loans. Okay. Go do that. That's good. Can't get it from me, but yes, go look for low interest to replace high interest. You're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, we'll do more exciting, fun things with you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's hour number 2 of the Jill on Money show, and we are delighted that you are with us because it's springtime, and it may mean that you're ready to sort of get in your car. And then all of a sudden you get in your car and you're like, wow, I hate my car. I want a new car. We just concluded the New York Auto Show. And in honor of that, I invited our dear friend of the show, Mike Quincy, the automotive content specialist at Consumer Reports, to join us because I love that auto issue of Consumer Reports. Who doesn't? It's so much fun. So Mike Quincy knows everything there is to know about cars. I know nothing about cars. Marka, you're probably somewhere in between, more on the knowing something, but not much, right? Not much these days. Also, when you go out and you're looking at cars, some of us old folks tend to carry with us the old notions of car buying. So with that in mind, learn something. Here's Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports. Mike, welcome back.
It's so great to be here. And it's funny because Consumer Reports has a financial newsletter, but your favorite issue is the car issue. Yay.
Of course. Why would I want to read about I don't want to read about the financial. Plus, I think I somehow or other I stopped getting the free version. So, I only get the car issue when you come.
Well, you're going to be on my comp list from
there you go. All right. So, Mike, what do we need to know if we're going out and shopping for a car right now? What's new for 2018?
What's new is I would say a greater availability of more and better safety equipment. For example, even your basic Toyota Corolla comes with forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking. It used to be, well, it still is, that the greatest automotive technology goes into the most expensive cars, and then after a while it trickles down to the plebeian cars, I suppose, that the things that I can afford because I work for a nonprofit organization. Anyway, bygones. From a consumer perspective, I think that's incredible. Also, the cars these days are are better. They're simply better. They get better fuel economy. They're more comfortable. They're more quiet. Again, they have all the safety equipment, and there's something for everyone within just about every price segment. So whether you're buying new or used, the selection, the time to buy a car has never been better.
And is there anything about that's unique about buying a car right now? I mean, just from the financial point of view, meaning that are prices up, down? Are there good deals, bad deals? Is it better to buy used right now versus new? What's the sense of where we are in the marketplace?
We have an automotive analyst that's on staff with us at the Consumer Reports Test Track, and he's always coming up to me and saying, I helped my friend buy a new car, and he was looking at a Hyundai Sonata, and it list priced at $35,000 with all these incentives. He got it down for like $22,000. I mean, there's a lot of deals out there, especially if you're in the market for a sedan. Sedan sales right now I'm not going to say they're tanking, but they're way down because everyone's buying SUVs and trucks.
Why is that, though? Price of oil has gone back up. Prices at the pump have gone back up. Is that just because the economy's doing better and people have jobs and they think it's way cooler to be in an SUV?
I think historically, Americans, when gas is relatively affordable, again, we haven't had the spike that we saw in the early 2000s, something like that. But when prices for fuel come down, Americans buy big. They buy trucks. They buy SUVs. SUVs and pickup trucks now are selling like gangbusters. I read an industry paper the other day that said that for the first time, an SUV is outselling a sedan. Like sedans have always sold more, except for pickup trucks. So like a Camry, Accord, always big sellers. Well, right now, the top selling vehicle that isn't a pickup truck is a Toyota RAV4. Which gives you an idea of what people are buying. People want SUVs. They want the utility. But again, if you're in the market for a sedan, you can get some great deals.
In fact, your colleague Mike Monticello, who is here with us in the studio but refuses to come on microphone because he's being a wimp, wrote an article in the new issue, in the 2018 auto issue, Are Trucks Becoming the New Family Car?
One of the reasons that trucks have become the family car is because they're so accommodating. You could put child seats in the back seat. They come with leather interior and all the creature comforts that you've gotten to know of regular cars. But certainly it's not the most fuel efficient family car out there. But
isn't it also? But I remember when you came on years ago and you said, some of the problem when we have like a family car and you say, I'm going to teach my kid to drive a truck, but the truck's center of gravity may be a little bit too much for a new driver to manage.
Right. That's
still true.
I'm really glad that you remember that, because people want to take their new drivers and say, I want them in a big vehicle because they're going to be safer. But no, it's a higher center of gravity. It's going to have a higher propensity to roll over. You really want your new driver in a sedan. I have an 18-year-old son. He's driving a Toyota Camry right now. Would he like a truck? Yeah. No, actually, what he'd really like is a sports car.
No. That's not happening.
I'd have to moonlight somewhere to pay the insurance on that.
I want to before we do the top 10, I do want to go to the brand standing, because what is Genesis? I don't even know what that is. I'm such a loser.
No,
I really am. What, Mike? Stop laughing at me in there.
Think about this. Genesis is an offshoot of Hyundai. Genesis is Hyundai's Lexus. Genesis is Hyundai's Infiniti. So Nissan and Toyota many years ago decided to have a luxury division, and that's exactly what Hyundai has done. The Genesis models that Consumer Reports have tested are really, really nice. Forget about the Hyundai parent company. Mm-hmm. The interiors are beautiful. They do handling well. They do seats well. They're quiet. They're comfortable. They have great controls, and they don't cost as much as a similar BMW or Mercedes-Benz. Often when people are looking for a luxury car, I say, have you looked at the Genesis? They say, what? They say, check them out. They're really nice.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
followed by Audi and BMW and Lexus and Porsche and Kia and Subaru. What is surprising to you when you look down this list? What surprises you about the brand standings? I know you test them all the time, but sometimes to see a consolidated list like this, I mean, of course, Fiat being 34 is not surprising. No. Remember what Fiat stands for, ladies and gentlemen, the Italian car manufacturer. Fix it again, Tony, as we used to call it.
Right.
What What is surprising about this list to you?
I think what isn't surprising is that a lot of the luxury manufacturers are in the top 10 of our brand report cards. And when we make our brand rankings, we're looking at overall score based on our testing. We want owner feedback on predictive reliability and owner satisfaction. So you factor all that stuff together, and you come up with a list of the car companies that we think are doing a good job. So what doesn't surprise me is that a lot of luxury manufacturers in the top 10. What does surprise me is, hey, look at Kia. They're number 6. Subaru is number 7. Honda is number 9. Toyota is number 10. So you don't have to be a millionaire to drive a car that is consistently made well and reliable. And honestly, there are plenty of Toyota, Hondas, Subarus, and Kias that do well in Consumer Reports testing that we'll recommend without reservation to a lot of people that we actually care about.
We'll be back with our interview with Mike Quincy in just a minute. While we're in the break, go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. It's free. Go, do it. JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Wondering how to make your money work for you? Get on the line now, 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the show that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And sometimes we get a little nutty when we make big purchases in our financial lives. You know, houses, very emotional. No doubt, very emotional. Cars, kind of crazy emotional when you think about the fact that you're buying a depreciating asset. You know, something that goes down in value the minute you buy it. Although I think there are a couple of cars, like if you buy high performance or antique cars, maybe they'll retain value. So for those of you in the market for a Ferrari, I think that you should keep that. I'm just kidding. A Ferrari is like a college education and a half. Anyway, if you're going to the showrooms, you want to know the best cars to buy for your money in terms of repairs, in terms of cost of energy, in terms of highly rated. We have Mike Quincy, the automotive content specialist at Consumer Reports. He's going to drill down the top 10 Consumer Reports cars of the year. Let's talk about your top 10. And what it takes to be tops. I'll just read from here, which is the road test, reliability, owner satisfaction, but also safety on this list. So let me go to the most interesting one that catches my eye is let's talk about the Chevy Bolt, which is the best compact green car. Dude, that is an ugly vehicle. I mean, is it not? Monticello, it's ugly, right? It's ugly. Is it like you know, that person at the bar who looks a lot better after the second drink?
No, I think and Mike likes country songs. The song is all the girls get prettier closing time.
Yeah.
Or isn't that? Yeah, that's it.
Something like that.
What's funny is you discount owner satisfaction surveys, but you're like, oh, that's ugly.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm glad to see you're based on science. It's good. It's all right.
I mean, that's my objective look. I like. Hey, I think it would be totally cool that all these cars are green. I don't like the way the BMW. So also, we'll talk about the Chevy Bolt in one second. But let me just talk about looks-wise. Nothing on this first page is interesting. I hate that look of that X3. Second page, I don't know. They're too rounded. This whole rounded thing is gotten away from me.
Did you just have a Mercedes-Benz GLK?
I still have it.
Okay, you still have it. So really, the profile of the GLK isn't radically different than the X3. It's not radically different than
it's like, see how that rounded thing? It looks like a big old marshmallow. All right, let's go back. So why is the Bolt the compact green car of the year?
Well, what's interesting, and I kind of look sideways at GM for doing this, but GM brought out the Chevrolet Volt with a V,
right,
which was a gas-electric hybrid. You could plug it in, get a certain amount of electric miles, and then the gas engine would kick in. So the Bolt with a B is all electric.
Right.
And what we like about the Bolt is that we measured about a 250-mile driving range, which is like as good as a Tesla. A Tesla's like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Our Bolt cost us about $38,000, and that's before a $7,500 tax incentive that you get when you buy electric cars. At least we think it's still going. It was some question about that before.
Yeah.
But it is genuinely fun to drive. It's easy to park. It has good visibility. It has decent handling. I mean, it's an example of when General Motors really decides to make something good, and it's specific. The Bolt isn't going to be a car for everybody, but for an electric car, we think it's pretty special.
Yeah, goodbye Prius, basically.
Well,
this is way cooler.
Well, it's different than a Prius. I mean,
because it's all electric.
The Prius has got the gas engine, obviously. I mean, when we're going on a road trip, but talk about ugly. Am I allowed to say that, Mike?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. The Prius has not grown. Cars sometimes grow on us. Like at first I didn't like it, but now the Prius is still ugly. Yeah. But for a road trip, it's phenomenal because it goes forever on a tank of gas, which is not the same with the Bolt. When you travel with the Bolt, you have to plan out where the charging stations are.
That's a problem. So let's look at the luxury compact car. This is our audience is all going to be all over the BMW X3, and you can pay $54,000 for your BMW X3. Or you can be smart and then instead of that, just buy the Subaru Forester. What's the difference if I look at the Subaru Forester and the BMW X3, which essentially they're the same category. One's luxury, but one is not, right?
Sure.
So I got to pay $30,000 more to get into my BMW, or $25,000 more. Yeah. What do I get for the $25,000?
Well, you get arguably a nicer fit and finish in the interior with the BMW. You get sharper handling. You get more engaging steering feedback. Certainly there's some prestige in it, but I mean, you're a very smart financial analyst here. Dollar for dollar, you're not getting it. The BMW is likely to depreciate a lot sharper, a lot faster than the Subaru.
Really?
Oh,
that's
sure.
Awesome.
No, luxury brands tend to depreciate really intensely in the first 3 years, whereas certainly the Subaru will depreciate, but probably not at the same rate.
That's interesting.
And Subarus have a really strong resale value. The Forester has been our top pick. For a number of years. You can't beat the Subaru reliability. 26 miles per gallon overall with a vehicle with full-time all-wheel drive is fantastic. And the thing about the Forester that people really miss is that if you're caring like for an elderly parent, let's say your mom and dad's still alive but can still drive, the Forester is one of those cars that's perfect for them because it's high enough off the ground that it's easy to get in and out, and the visibility in the cabin is terrific because the roof pillars are very thin. There's lots of glass area, so it's easy to get in and out of. It's easy to see out of. So a Forester would be a great choice if you're trying to find a vehicle for your old aging parent but can still drive.
So let's go and talk about the large car is the Chevrolet Impala, the Ford F-150. I don't think that the Ford F-150 has been like the full-size pickup truck for a while, right?
Well, they're all the trucks made from the Detroit manufacturers are really quite good. I think what gave the F-150 the edge was its better reliability. Mm-hmm. The Ram is really nice. The GM trucks are really nice, but the Ford, with its average reliability and decent fuel economy from its turbo V6, kind of just puts it over the edge. F-150 is a really great truck. I mean, Ford knows what they've got at stake. It's the number one selling nameplate for since the Flintstones, for God's sakes. So they don't want to screw it up. And trucks represent a big profit margin for car companies.
So I just noticed here on the top 10 that of your top 10, it looks like there are 4 Toyotas. Mm-hmm. Right? The Toyota Corolla, the compact car. Then there's the Toyota Camry for the midsize, the Toyota Sienna for the minivan, and then the Highlander for the midsize SUV. That's a good batting average, huh?
Oh yeah. I actually, when you started that sentence, I thought you were going to compliment Detroit for having a few vehicles.
I'm not jingoistic like that. I actually don't care because I feel like all the parts and everything comes from all over the place.
Well, you're absolutely right. And at Consumer Reports, we don't care either. But it's funny because we get nasty emails and letters.
I'm over that.
You do too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the time.
When Detroit doesn't have enough recommended cars, they say we have a bias against them. When Toyota gets a bunch of recommended cars, they say we're being paid off. I'm still I'm serious. I'm still
Too
waiting.
bad. Where's the car?
I'm still waiting for that check. Well, you should see the way Mike Monticello and I dress. It's clear that we're not being paid off.
Yeah, let me tell you, the yen conversion is way down if they're getting paid off.
But yeah, no. But it kind of goes back to what you talked about with the brand report cards. I mean, there's a reason why Toyota is in the top 10 of kind of companies that are doing it right. Is that they produce models that are fuel efficient. They're full of standard safety features. They get good gas mileage. They have great reliability. It's just easy as heck to recommend Toyotas to people, especially people who don't care about cars. I mean, seriously, it's like, the Corolla. Mike and I have a coworker who's just so down on Corollas. Oh, Corolla's cold, blah blah blah. Listen, there's millions of people in the United States and around the world that want a car that gets from point A to point B. They say, I want the heater to work. I want the radiator to work. And that's about it. And the Corolla and the Camry and the Sienna, the Highlander, they do all those things really, really well.
We'll get back to our interview with Mike Quincy in just a minute. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money. The last time that Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports, the automotive content specialist of Consumer Reports, showed up to the show and talked to us about the best cars of 2017, Mark bought a car right after that. So when he walked in today, Mark said to him, don't make me buy another car. But if you are in the market to buy a car, whether it's new or used, you may want to understand where the best value lies. So here's more of our interview with Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports. So the luxury compact car is the Audi, once again, Audi kicking butt. I feel like all those luxury cars totally look alike at this point. There's nothing that's like that
You are
interesting.
tough to please.
I know. I want to go into my favorite category, which is how we can spend less money on our cars. So
Yes.
you do the best values for both new and used cars. And I love this. What would you say is the most popular category in the best new vehicle under 30 grand? So we can focus on that.
SUVs.
Okay.
Any SUV is what people are wanting.
Okay. So the best SUV, midsize, under 30 grand is the Hyundai Santa Fe Sport. And if you want to, so how does
this list is dollar based. It's not just ratings.
I got you.
Yeah, dollar for dollar.
And then when you do the dollar, when you're going in, let's say the compact SUVs, what is you don't make a rating choice. You're just putting them all in here. In other words, they look to be alphabetical.
This list is alphabetical,
Okay.
but to make this list, they have to perform well in our testing. They can't fail any crash tests. They have to have at least average reliability. They have to be recommended models. We're not just throwing brands in there because they make a price point. They have to be good enough to be recommended.
Why is a Subaru Outback a wagon and not an SUV?
Because technically, it is. It's kind of based on the legacy sedan, which is a car.
I see.
I mean, you can make Subaru wants you to think it's sort of an SUV because it looks like one and has a slightly higher ground clearance. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a wagon. But it's a really nice wagon. It drives well.
All right. Well, you got to buy this. I'm not giving away all the secrets here, by the way. Just forget about that. I want to go into the charts. Best new cars for seniors, because we talked about this a little bit, but a lot of our audience has parents, and we are ourselves aging. Subaru Forester, Subaru Outback, Kia Soul, Chrysler Pacifica. I love that you did this. I think this is so great because it is also true that as we are kind of aging ourselves, I think getting in and out of cars is like a pain in the neck.
Well, and you know what's interesting is since the Forester is the first on the list for best cars for seniors, when we were talking about the Forester before, that proves that I know what I'm talking about.
You know what, Quincy? You are okay.
Wow, this is a miracle.
All right, so in the actual, deep into the the chart. You've got all the compact electric and hybrid cars, and in that analysis on page 38 of your new Consumer Reports Best and Worst Cars, SUVs, and Trucks issue, April 2018. In there, you have the Prius and the Bolt, not the
with
Volt,
a B.
with a B. Why is Prius ahead of the Bolt? Is that just price?
It's. I think what the reason that it out when you look at the overall score.
Yeah.
They both get 77.
Right.
So I think what we're looking at here is the Prius 3 has slightly better reliability.
Okay.
So
I
think that's what differentiates it.
Okay.
And not we don't put the dollar equation in our ratings, but it's also a lot less money. So
let's go into one of my favorites, which is a car's luxury, because I find this to be a very fabulous category where I think people really rip themselves off by picking certain luxury cars over the other. I have seen quite a few Maseratis, and I note that on your luxury mid-size cars, it's the bottom of the barrel, followed closely by the Jaguar XF.
It's a miracle that Consumer Reports tested a Maserati, and I've bought.
It's 90 G's.
I've bought 136 cars for the Consumer Reports test program. I was allowed to buy that one.
But why? Why did you have to buy it? Did you know it sucked?
No, we don't know anything about the cars before we test them. Honestly,
really?
I mean, this was the first kind of mainstream Maserati, if you could even say that two things in the same sentence. But it became a competitor to Lexus, Mercedes, BMW, Infiniti. I mean, legitimately, it's in that category. I think what kills the Maserati, and you pronounce the name Ghibli. Ghibli.
I'll call it Ghibli.
Ghibli. The giblet, as some of my colleagues like to call
nice.
it, is it's the reliability, owner satisfaction, just got creamed. And this is you hate to generalize, but when you look at the Italian nameplates like Maserati and Fiat, and one of these days we'll get some data on Alfa Romeos, they're not changing people's perception, which is too bad. I mean, listen, they're entertaining. They're not boring, run-of-the-mill cars. Just halfway up that page is the Alfa Romeo Giulia, a very entertaining car. But again, it's when a Toyota Camry is thousands and thousands of dollars cheaper and it's built better, you got to ask yourself, and as a financial person, what are you getting for your money here? Well, you're not getting a lot of dependable hardware. Or software. And
by the way, so too with your SUVs in the luxury large category, I see an awful lot of Cadillac Escalade or Escalades out there. Or Range Rovers and Land Rovers also seem to be all over the place. Those things, I can't drive that thing.
No.
That's terrible.
They're pretty bulky, and to give out proper financial advice in this category, buy a 2 or 3 year old used Escalade or Range Rover. You'll save a ton of money. For the first 3 years of their depreciation are incredible. So you can maybe get some factory warranty left on it, which you'll need. But the price will drop thousands compared to a new one. It doesn't. Listen, if you're making your money, you love luxury cars. I get it. You want what you want.
Yeah.
But from a financial standpoint, buy one that's a couple years old, and you'll save a ton of cash.
We'll get back to our interview with Mike Quincy in just a moment. Hey, have you checked out our podcast? It's called Better Off. You can go to JillOnMoney.com and you can subscribe to it, or you can go to Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcast. It's the Better Off Podcast with me and Mark. Okay, it's Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
(855-411-JILL). That's the number to call to have your financial questions answered. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. We are so delighted that you are with us today. Springtime, baseball season. How you feeling about our Mets, Mark? He's laughing. You learn in the world of fandom which teams that you can really rely on and which teams you just sort of chuckle. As hockey season comes to a close here in the greater New York area, all three teams stunk this year, basically. Now the Devils are good. But are they going to make it to the playoffs? Yeah. All right. So I rescind that remark, and apologies to my friend Jeff Backel, our biggest Devils fan in the universe. All right. If you are a big fan and a big fan of the show, be sure to go to JillOnMoney.com and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you are a big fan of cars and you like to buy them, what are some of the mistakes that you can avoid? Here is our guest, Mike Quincy, the automotive content specialist of Consumer Reports. Tell us what mistakes we keep making when we buy cars. What are some mistakes that we need to avoid?
I think people buy more utility than they need. I think you get parents that have one child and they insist on buying a Toyota Land Cruiser. I mean, an enormous truck for one kid, and you're not towing a trailer, and you're not carpooling. I mean, I see a lot of people driving around in big vehicles, and there's one person in them. I think Americans certainly buy more than they need. I think certainly here in the Northeast, people insist on all-wheel drive, and I think that's also a waste of money because where we live, if there's a threat of a snowstorm, the schools are already closed.
Right.
The businesses are closed. Everything is shut down, even if you get like a quarter inch of snow. And so you don't get on the road until they're cleared.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you have a kind of job, you're an emergency room doctor, you're a firefighter, police officer, you have to be at your shift no matter what, then absolutely get all-wheel drive when you live where it snows. The rest of us get a sedan with front-wheel drive and good winter tires. Talk about saving money.
Yeah, right. What about, you don't really deal in this issue, but you know this, the financing question, meaning financing a new car versus leasing a new car. How do you fall down on that?
Generally, I think the rules are still pretty true in that you can kind of get a nicer car if you lease. Comparably speaking, the lease payment is less than a loan payment.
Right. But you won't end up with an asset.
Right.
At the end of the term.
At the end of the lease, you either have to buy out the car, which means you take on a car loan, or you have to sign up for another lease, and therefore it never ends. From a financial standpoint, it still makes the most sense to buy the best, most fuel-efficient, reliable car you can, if you can, in cash, all up front, and drive it literally into the ground. You keep a car for a really, really long time. You spread out the cost of that car, and if it's reliable and fuel efficient, there's fewer worries. Now, the downside of that is if you're driving a 10-year-old car right now, you have 10-year-old technology, which means you don't have forward collision warning. You don't have automatic emergency braking. You don't have the latest.
I don't even have Bluetooth.
Well, yeah, let's see. There you go.
I know.
So
me.
Yeah, there's always good news, bad news when it comes to that.
Do you think that that as a financial person that I should be stressing that technology more? Because I do focus so much on the money. And I'm a cheapskate about cars because I hate them. But the idea of when you just say that 10-year-old technology, it does make me think twice about the fact that, that I try to keep my cars at least 6 or 7 years. I generally have. The only time I've gone to, I've turned a car over essentially when on December 30th when I walked into the dealership just for the heck of it and just wanted to see what was left and see if who's scrambling to make their numbers so desperately for the year end. That is a good time to get a car.
Well, yeah, that's actually a very good question because some people talk about when is the best time to buy a car, and usually, certainly in the Northeast, it's the cold, dark days of winter after the Super Bowl, but before the Final Four. To use a sports analogy?
You mean you think that... so that's interesting because I found I liked the end of the year. I like December 30th, 31st, because there is still that weird dealership incentive of number of units that they have to move in a certain year to get bonuses.
Is it certain year or every month?
Well, it's every month, but then they do it but they also have their year-end numbers. So someone tipped me on that.
You can get a good deal on a leftover car. So now let's fast forward 7 or 8 months from now. You're into December. They're going to have the 2018s still on the lot because they're getting in the 2019s.
Right.
So get a 2018 car, one that you like. You'll get a good deal on it. However, as soon as you drive it off the lot, you already have a year's depreciation, even though the car is brand new.
Yeah.
Now, if you keep your car a long time,
doesn't matter.
It's not going to matter. But if you want to get a new car every 2 or 3 years, it will matter.
So wait, when are the 2019 cars in dealerships?
They're coming in now.
Right now,
Oh, yeah.
spring. So
Yeah.
spring. So that's spring of 18.
No, I've got my line on purchasing an Infiniti QX 60, I think it is, one of their new SUVs, and it is titled a 2019 car. Probably should be taking delivery in a week or so. The 2019s are out there.
We'll get back to our interview with Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports in just a minute. If you've got a financial question, just shoot us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money, and we are talking to automotive content specialist of Consumer Reports, Mike Quincy. He's the car guy, the car expert. What features do we pay up for? That's the next part of this interview with Mike. What are some of the features that we pay up for that we shouldn't?
The stuff you got to get at the dealers. When they say, you need fabric protection on your seats. You got to get rust proofing. Oh, you got to get.
You're saying that in such a way that the little, I don't know, it's a little side shot at the dealers, huh?
Well, listen, they have these people called F&I, finance insurance.
Yeah.
And so you work out the deal with your salesperson. You're like, okay, all right, I can afford that. And then they put you in, and I'm going to say guy. I don't mean guy.
Sometimes it's a slick gal.
Sometimes it's a gal. Sometimes it's a guy. It doesn't matter. Put it in front of the F&I guy. And they push it. It's a hard sell because they're selling fear. Right. Oh, well, you got to have this extra protection.
So anything that is a dealer specific.
The dealer add-ons are usually wastes of money. Don't allow yourself to be talked into stuff that the dealer wants to sell you, mostly because it's a good profit margin for them. They make a lot of money on these deals. And they're allowed to make money, but you have the right to say no thank you. And you also have the right, if they're pressuring you and you're not feeling comfortable, you stand up. You say, no, I'm out of here. I'm getting my deposit back. I'm canceling the deal. Bye. And all of a sudden they'll change their tune. So listen, it doesn't happen as much as it used to. I have to say the vast majority of the car dealers that I've dealt with in purchasing vehicles for Consumer Reports, they're straightforward, hardworking men and women, honest, good deals, and they just want you to be a happy customer. But there's still some sleazy ones out there.
So just before you go, most regular old cars, they make a profit margin of like $500 on the car, and the higher end is $1,000, maybe $1,500 if it's a hot car and you're trying to get it, whatever. You can just say to this guy, like, how much do you need to make on this car?
Well,
you can back into your number pretty quickly.
It should be simple. The old expression is you bargain up from the dealer cost, not down from the sticker. So the dealer has it in stock. I'd simply say, listen, there's the sticker price, and then there's what you paid for the car. What's a good number in between?
Well, thanks so much to Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports. Go buy the new issue right now. It's hot off the presses on the stands. And thank you for listening. It's been a great program. If you've got any questions throughout the week, you can always reach us at AskJill@JillOnMoney.com. And if you've missed any of our prior shows, just head over to the website, JillOnMoney.com. Click on the listen button. We'll see you next week.